Hey all you cool cats and kittens, Bad Mike here, back with another video. Today we're talking about Arcane Season 2, Episode 6, which is in Act 2. Once again, spoilers for all of the show, besides the next act, because at the time of recording, and probably at the time of release, Act 3 isn't out yet. So now you know there are spoilers. I'm going to just jump straight into it. You ready? Because I'm ready. And if you're not ready, leave the video, because now we're getting into it. So last night, I was kind of watching Sarcastic Chorus, because his videos appear on my recommended. And he was talking about Act 2 in its entirety. And I thought I'd give it a watch. And not only from, thinking about, sort of mulling it over a bit more, what happened in those episodes, and hearing what he had to say, and then looking through the comments, I feel like I have a better understanding of why the show felt really quick to me and it didn't feel well paced out. And I probably did mention this, but he was talking about Caitlyn's sort of dictatorship and how we didn't really get to see that. We didn't really get to experience that. And how we're thrown into Act 2 with the montage of the kind of jinxers roaming around town, and then when we finally see Caitlyn, she's already having doubts about her sort of position as the leader of Piltover. And we go from Act 1, where Caitlyn has just lost her mother, and it's like an epilogue of what happened in the first season, to I'm the dictator now, and then we have a time jump where we're kind of introduced to hers and Maddie's relationship, and then it turns into I'm now having serious doubts. And it's a bit jarring seeing how Caitlyn is so determined to get vengeance and bring order and stop Zorn, and now she's wondering whether or not it's the right thing to do. And I know there's been months in between, but I guess we just haven't really seen that transition of, bloodthirsty kind of lust for vengeance to am I doing the right thing? And it's kind of gone from 100 to 1, and now we're kind of put into a situation where we don't really understand the character's motives. And I'll discuss more on that, now. Once again, I want to bring up the Jinxes thing. I have mentioned this, a few times before, but we don't really get to see that transition from Jinx being the kind of street thug lieutenant to Messiah. And once again, that's from going from, 1 to 100. It's saying, oh, we've put our character here, and now they're over here. And we don't really... It's not about the destination, but the journey in these shows. We want to see our characters develop and progress. And in the show, at the moment, it doesn't really feel like we're doing that. And that's why I felt like the show's been poorly paced in this act. And don't get me wrong, I feel like they're still doing a brilliant job of tying it together, but we can see the kind of cracks in the ceiling and the flaws in the show itself now, which wasn't as apparent, in my opinion, in Season 1 and the first act of Season 2. It really feels like when we finally see Act 3, we might not get a properly developed picture. I feel like it's failed a hurdle, so now we're kind of limping in this running race, and when we get to the final sort of moments, this is where the season could fall short. I'm optimistic about the future of the show, or this final act, but at the same time, I have this sense of dread that it will be incredibly disappointing. Not like Game of Thrones Season 8 type disappointing, but this was a really good show, and they've just kind of fell over and broken both their legs, and they cannot continue running in this race. But anyhow, with that out of the way, I'm going to get into the meat and potatoes of Episode 6. So the episode begins with Victor witnessing the death of Salo through this kind of portal or some kind of interdimensional realm that he's now stuck in. What I'm curious about, and I feel like I've mentioned this previously, is what is going on with Victor? What is manipulating him? Is that actually Sky? It probably isn't Sky, to be fair. But what is going on with him? How much control? How much awareness of the situation does he have? He talks about Jace not being who actually Jace is, and he examines the kind of Hextech Chaos Gate, which is in front of him, and he kind of like starts to learn about him. And yeah, it's pretty clear that this isn't Jason. There's something working within him, a bit like Eddie Brock and Venom. That's what it reminds me of quite a bit. We then see Jace go on this hunt for Victor, and I'll get into that a bit later when we see him like walking through the streets and whatnot. But at the same time, I don't feel like that kind of fits in with the established story so well. My main kind of point is that the streets are flooded with enforcers. It's military law, and there was presumably a search for Jace. We kind of get that in the first episode with like a passing line of Ambessa saying, oh, there's no great scientists, they're all missing. So wouldn't there be a search? And if Jace kind of randomly stepped outside in his haggard-looking suit with a Hextech weapon, which is crafted like no other, wouldn't that raise suspicions, and wouldn't that ring alarm bells and alert people that something isn't quite right here? We get the title screen as usual, and then we're shown the Noxian ships and sort of Ambessa teaching Caitlin the ways of like Noxian combat and saying how her speed is improving and her skill is improving and her power. But we also see that kind of bonding that we really need in the show, just to show how close them two are getting and where Caitlin is on like how she is a dictator almost. I feel like this scene is meant to convey how Ambessa is trying to keep a chokehold on Caitlin's wavering, to stop her from kind of re-establishing the council and like abolishing martial law, which makes some of the later scenes in this episode very jarring. We now return to Jinx, Vi and Aisha, and they found Victor's commune. And this is another problem that I have. They've just randomly found him. I know it's not hard to miss, but we could have just had another scene of them asking around, being like, oh, we need to find a healer, or we need to find someone that can save my dad. Not that, because I don't think most people know that Vanda is actually alive. But they just kind of stumble upon it, or something along those lines. I feel like a lot of this act has been showing me a completed puzzle, but there's pieces missing. But the person who's made the puzzle has gone, no, it's complete. But half the picture's missing for me, so I can't view the puzzle properly. So all of them kind of leave their weapons behind, and they go into this kind of Garden of Eden, I would call it. And Vanda starts to like howl and scream at the inhabitants because there's some sort of like unnatural property to them. And this is when Victor is kind of reintroduced in the flesh. He sort of begins to heal Vanda, and this is when we hear Sky say, like, all systems have their limitations and whatnot. And rewatching this scene just now, it also raises the question I cannot remember for the life of me. Why is Victor doing all of this? Why is he healing all of these people? And this is the problem. It's like, I don't feel like we get to explore enough of Victor before he's killed off. Like, what is the motive behind this? And what is the motive behind Jace's assassination? I appreciate that some things are meant to be kept a secret, but once again, it feels like we are being shown a puzzle with the pieces missing. We are losing integral bits of the story due to the pacing. Victor is insistent on healing Vanda. And my question is, why? Why is he insistent on healing Vanda? And I guess the answer is to most people, or what I kind of got from this episode when I first watched it, was he's doing it to be charitable. But we obviously know there's something deeper there with the Hextech, because why would Victor be doing this otherwise? He's not gone out just to heal people. There's obviously some ulterior motive, right? And we never get to see that before Victor is killed off. And once again, pacing issue. And I feel like a broken record in most of these videos, because I feel like I'm just repeating the same points over and over again. But at the same time, rewatching these things, I'm just asking the same questions over and over again with what feels like to be little to no answers. I appreciate how good the writing is, but at the same time, it's like no matter how good the writing is, there are still these underlying questions that don't get answered, which feel like they should be getting answered. We then get this montage of Victor looking through Vanda's memories and the memories of the two girls, I suppose, because we see this really nice musical bit with the montage, and it's really well done, and it is probably the best part of the episode in my opinion. Not only because of the visuals, but the audio, but also the story meaning behind it, and I feel like it fills in a couple of the gaps that we didn't get filled in elsewhere. Because beforehand, in the show, we only really heard of Vi and Jinx's parents through the context of enforcers had killed them. And this was great and all, we didn't really need much more than that, but we didn't really get to see the bond of their parents that they had with their children. And you don't really need that, because the whole point is they're supposed to be orphaned and then have their kind of like found family of Vanda, Clagger, and Milo. It really helps solidify the design choices when it comes to Vi as well, in my opinion. Mostly because you get to see her box a lot, you get to see when her mum cuts her hair and why she always kept her hair that way, and then you also get to see her like training with the kind of mining equipment, which also gives a bit of clarity on the first act of episode 1, where she does pick them up and fight Silco's goons with them. And this nagged at me when I first watched Act 1, mostly just because I thought, well, she's a kid and she's just picked up mining equipment that she's probably never used before, and now she's just beaten up a whole gang of Silco's cronies. But no, I do like how that's just like a brief image, but it doesn't end up explaining a lot. I think it would have probably worked better as actual flashbacks and not a montage, but only if we had more time to spare and watch Act 2, because Act 2 feels like it could occupy an entire season itself. But in the end, they did extremely well with the montage, and I like how it's been done considering their time constraints. I feel like the montage would take place over at least a couple of days, like maybe no longer than like 3 or 4 days, but I feel like Jinx, Vi, and Pad have probably been there for a while, because the spiritual healing might have taken a quite a long time. And also we see Ambessa and Caitlin arrive with Singed, and they've brought an army with them. They plan to destroy the entirety of this commune. We can see that Caitlin's very hesitant about destroying this kind of peaceful commune of people, compared to Ambessa, due to the kind of close-up, like the extreme close-ups on their eyes, where you see Caitlin's darting around a bit, seeing if Ambessa's bodyguard will strike down the Doctor, and then you can see Ambessa's dead set straight forward and is planning on conquering this outside force. Another issue that I had with this episode is when Singed goes to speak to Victor, and Singed almost understands his condition. And once again, I'm just screaming at the television, why? How? How does he know this? Why does he know this? Like, Victor's trying to heal Vanda, and Singed is going, your power is limited, your power is finite, you cannot do this. And it's, how does he know this? And Victor gets this flashback of Singed's child, and this is just my personal issue with the show. I don't know if it's like universal, but that's the problem. It feels like everything has been like hastily smashed together, you know? And it's enjoyable to watch. But at the same time, I'm critical of a lot of the television that I indulge myself in. So when I see stuff like that, it nags at me. It's biting at my ankles like a feral child. We then see Vi followed Singed out of this Victor's kind of tent almost. And he walks out of the camp and Vi follows her. And this is when we're reintroduced to Caitlin. Caitlin falls down and attacks Vi, right? And this is another issue that I had, is wouldn't there be guards posted all over the place? And why is Caitlin just randomly up there? Why is she standing guard? She is the leader of Piltover. And I know she's a very hands-on approach with the investigation and like trying to stop the threat of Zorn. But why is she standing guard? Wouldn't there be a Noxian guard posted there instead? She then like tackles Vi to the floor, and they have this kind of conversation of, like, you know, a kind of bitchy kind of insult match of like Mongoose, Angry Oil Slick. And my problem here is last time they saw each other, they looked like they were going to fight, right? They weren't on good terms at all. And they clearly still aren't, considering Vi's just been tackled by Caitlyn. And now Caitlyn's giving away this kind of top priority information of we're tracking down a chem weapon down here. And just because Vi has called her an old nickname, it suddenly flips her character and does a 180. We haven't seen the build-up to Dictator Caitlyn, like, Brat Summer, I'm gonna rule the world type shit. But then we've had this montage of that, right? And then we had instant doubts and this establishment of her rebound/relationship with Maddie. And we don't get much context on that between its professional entanglement in the first episode. And so we don't know how the nature of these two relationships interact. And now she's just like completely sided with Vi. She's done another 180. Where she was having doubts to begin with, and we could see those doubts, she's now sided against the Noxians, the people that have been whispering in her ear for months at this point, the people that have given her power and established her as the ruler of Piltover. And that doesn't make sense to me. Like, I can understand Caitlyn having some compassion towards Vi still and wanting to help her, but this is the beast that broke into Stillwater and massacred a whole garrison's worth of guards. It is the beast which has rampaged around Zorn and threatened the security of Piltover. And suddenly it's your friend's dad, and now you've completely turned against what you were so fiercely aggressive towards, like, only an episode earlier. And that's, once again, one of the major pacing issues in this act. This is now when we see Vi and Caitlyn work together, when Caitlyn kind of brings Vi into Ambessa's tent. And this is my problem. There's now the betrayal of Ambessa, who is probably one of the most powerful people in Piltover at the moment, and you're now betraying them because you found out your friend's dad is actually the super mutant beast, like Rob Zombie Super Beast. And you've kind of gone completely 180 now. And it doesn't really make sense to me, because you hated her because Vi got in the way of you taking the shot on your mother's killer. It's like she helped Jinx here, and for all Caitlyn knows, she could be working for Jinx, although she doesn't really know that at the moment. But to us, they've kind of teamed up. So what happens when she finds out that Vi has teamed up with Jinx? Like, don't we think there would have been some sort of disconnect and some mistrust? And that's my problem. There's also another massive problem, which I touched on earlier, going into the next scene, which is Jace suddenly finding Victor's commune. So he would have to go from the Piltover, like, Academy labs, where Hextech was being developed, all the way through Piltover, cross the bridge into, like, the Fishers area, and then through the entirety of Zorn to find this commune. And nobody saw him and nobody questioned him. I know he's got a fuck-off huge hammer, but at the same time, it's like, my guy, the entire city doesn't know where you are. You must have turned some heads. But no, he's just beeline straight towards this commune. Like, I can understand that maybe this entity, this chaos inside of him is guiding him towards Victor, but at the same time, it's like someone should have apprehended, someone should have stopped you. Like, it feels unfathomable that he has got here within a couple days of, like, I would have just liked to see one scene of maybe some Zornites looking at him, maybe considering to mug him for his huge hammer. Maybe some people, like some enforcers at a checkpoint, thinking to themselves, wait, is that Jace? Should we stop him? And then, like, him giving them a look or some kind of signal where you will die if you interfere with me. If you tell anybody, I will come for you next, sort of look. And that's my problem here. It just feels like Jace has appeared out of nowhere, killed Salo, and then beeline towards Victor to kill him. It feels like they're hastily tying up loose ends. Like the writers are suddenly going, we've got ourselves into a bit of a rut here, so now we need to wrap up Victor's sort of commune for the next act to progress. We then cut back to Vi, Caitlyn, and Ambessa, and this is where Singed has procured this sort of antidote in the matter of hours, or not even that, probably like, I can even put a span of time on how long it's taken him to create this anti-venom. And I know it's his creation, so he'll be able to do that, but at the same time, would he even have that equipment with him? That's my other issue. It feels like he's just randomly got all of his lab supplies and put together some sort of antidote or venom to kill Vander, right? And I know that's not a glaring issue, but then he sort of leaves and goes to put in the Noxian sort of like battering ram or kind of protective carriage. And we cut back to Vander being affected by this sort of antidote or serum, and we also then cut to Jinx into the position where she's gonna snipe Ambessa's bodyguard later on. And this is another issue that I have. When did Jinx get involved, right? When did Jinx get involved in this plan that Vi and Caitlyn had? Is she just randomly guarding Vander? I can understand that. But then we see Aisha coming to her with all these different parts to build something. And it's like, why are you keeping watch in a sniper's nest? Like, something bad's gonna happen. Like, I know there was Ambessa's kind of entourage show up at the commune earlier, but A, we don't know what they're here for yet. B, I know they're probably going to attack, but C, also, nobody else besides Vi noticed that. And what has Vi then said to Caitlyn? Oh, I've got a plan to like stop Ambessa or to stop them from killing my dad. We'll go in there. But before that, I want to go speak to my sister to get my sister into position. And then wouldn't Caitlyn then raise the question of, you're working with your sister, the person who killed my mum, why should I trust you? You see what I mean? There's a lot of gaps here, and it's still quite well written for what they're given, but at the same time, it's what they're given, it's well written, you know? It's good given the circumstances, but in a grander picture of it all, like, as a show, I can't help but feel like these are glaring issues that should have been addressed. We then see Caitlyn and Singed return to the commune, and this is when, like, Jinx is viewing it through the sniper scope, and my first thought was she was gonna kill Singed or assassinate Caitlyn, like, maybe kill them both in that span of time. And honestly, like, was she aware that Caitlyn got into the commune and then she set it all up? Like, once again, I just feel like the plan here is very kind of, don't think about it, watch the show. And anyhow, we cut back to Ambessa and Vi, and Ambessa talks a lot about how, with Vi leaving Caitlyn heartbroken, that she was able to, like, fill in that spot of, like, close friend advisor, hopefully not lover, because that'd be a bit weird. Like, I can understand being into MILFs, guys, but, like, come on. I find this odd, because once again, it's being said, there's been a couple of moments where Ambessa has proven to be, like, a good ally to Caitlyn, or, like, the voice in her ear, but at the same time, we don't really get much of that, which is a problem to me. It's like, you can say it all you want, but I feel like they should have showed us just a bit more. And once again, just another episode would have been brilliant. I know animation is expensive. Like, it's like a crazy amount per minute, for like studio level animation. But no, it baffles me, because going further and further along this episode, the more and more lost I feel, the more and more disappointed and disinterested I feel in the story, because it doesn't make sense. And I feel like a lot of people will disagree with me on that point and be like, well, yes, it does make sense, and yes, and you shouldn't be so critical of this show. But at the end of the day, there are just like fundamental points which are getting harder and harder to ignore, which impact the story in such a massive way, you know? We then see Vi's plan come into action, and it gives us that little kind of montage or quick few snippets of the plan being set with Caitlin. And Caitlin even mentions that there are guard towers all along the fissures and they're looking over the commune at all times. So how did Vi sort of follow along Singed, and then Caitlin is the first one to intercept Vi, and then they're casually kind of making a plan in the sort of like where guards should be patrolling. Like, it's not hard to understand that if Caitlin's round there kind of looking over this commune, that there are probably other people. And we even saw that when Caitlin sort of pulls Vi to the side and points over and says, well, there are people over there, we need to kind of lay low and devise a plan. And then Vi makes it all the way back to Jinx, and she then goes to Jinx, set yourself up here, this is what's going to happen. And Caitlin is completely fine with that. And I know I touched upon that earlier without the and that was without the context of me watching the show, because I've got my notes here, but they're like bullet points of the major significant things that happened. And then I'm now watching the show as I critique it, just to make sure everything's right and I'm kind of reviewing things in order. And that's my problem. There's guards posted. They're on home territory, so although their guard will be down, they'll still have guards everywhere. There's guards surrounding the commune, and Vi has not only followed Singed, she's met up with Caitlin, they've devised a plan, and then Vi's made it all the way back to tell Jinx, who the commune is also being watched, and Jinx is in a position where a sniper would be. Like, it's out of the way, it's up in the air, so it should be semi-visible to some of these guards at the very least. And Singed has devised this antidote in a few hours with hardly any equipment, and now Vi has trapped Ambessa to stop her, and Singed has gone to cure Vander with Caitlin, and Jinx is now stopping that, and Caitlin's completely fine with her mother's murderer sort of being involved in this plan to save Vi's dad, and she is absolutely kind of no opinion. We don't see anything about that, you know? We see Caitlin knock out Singed, and then we cut to Jace, who is now in the commune. So he's avoided the Noxian guards, he's avoided the doctor who was posted on the gate, or the commune members who were posted on the gate, and he is now in this commune without anybody noticing him. Like, there must be at least, 200 people that live here, because we've seen the size of this place, and he's now in here with a weapon, completely, out of the ordinary, and he's gone to kill Victor. And he's now having these voices and flashbacks of, I won't fail you, or, promising this entity within inside of him that he will kill Victor. And, once again, this is a massive problem for me. How? How is he in here without anybody noticing him, without Victor noticing him? They are all connected by a hive mind. All of these cultists are connected to Victor, and Victor can willingly take control of them at once. And it's not like Victor is concerned with Vander right now. So, and we're not explained how this hive mind works, for better or for worse, but at the same time, there should be someone that knows that Jace has infiltrated the commune, and he needs to be stopped, but it feels like it's being completely ignored. We are then shown fragments of, Jace walking through this commune and meeting all these people that are part of the commune, and we see how Jace views them as these kind of, malign entities, and I use that word a lot, malign, and they're kind of creatures beyond human comprehension, right? They're very Lovecraftian in their design, and once again, they're linked to a hive mind, and people have tried stopping Jace, and it's not like, I feel like Victor would have seen that, or there should have been some sort of motion to stop him, because Victor knows that Jace is coming to kill him. And wouldn't the Noxian guards try and storm in to retrieve the counselor who's been missing for all these months? I know there are preparations to kind of attack on the eve, and it's been hours since then, so there could be an attack any minute now. But once again, they're probably dealing with Vi. But even then, the guards posted around the commune should know, why else would they put guards around there if they weren't going to interfere if something went wrong? We're then shown sort of this kid who was almost killed by Jace sort of offer up his hand, and once again, I want to know whether it's Victor or not. And I feel like it is Victor. Otherwise, it's probably some misguided trust in Jace that he'll be cured by Victor. So he's led straight towards the sort of twink Jesus, the Messiah. And that's where everything kind of shit hits the fan. We then cut back to the sort of assassination attempt of Warwick, right? And this is where Ambessa's bodyguard walks in and picks up Caitlin and is like, I believed in you, we trusted you, and look what you've done, you've betrayed us. And once again, he's walking into the commune with a weapon, and I know there's guards posted. I feel like the guards this time have actually alerted them of Caitlin going into this commune with Singed, and then saying something's not right here. And this is the most sort of believable part of this entire plan. But then I feel like Caitlin would have realised that someone would have been following her, or they would have known. But then again, I believe that's why Jinx is posted on the sniper's nest. So it makes sense in that regard, and I can see people not really having an issue with this scene. After the fight between Jinx and Ambessa's bodyguard, we see Warwick sort of come in and protect Jinx and throw him through a window and absolutely decimate him. And this is where Jinx sort of embraces Warwick and kind of gives him a big hug, and Caitlin sort of gets up and looks directly at Warwick and Jinx and the person who killed her mother, and there's no reaction. There's not even a line of just acknowledgement that happened. And I feel like some people will argue, well, it's been months, she's probably forgiven her or not even forgotten, but came to terms with the death of her own parent. But at the same time, it's shouldn't that just impact her a tiny bit? And then we see Vi enter the scene, and she breaks through one of these doors, and she's ran all the way from the Noxian fortification, the camp, to the commune, once again going unnoticed by all of these guards, or because there is guards posted everywhere, and wouldn't they notice that Vi was taken in as a prisoner, and now she's come in uncuffed, she completely sort of bluffed her way out of this situation. And it's just strange to me that no one would realise what's gone on. It just, once again, feels like there's a couple of loose ends, and that the logic isn't logicking, if you know what I mean. It just doesn't make sense. We then see Jace finally kill Victor, which has been leading up to for the entire episode, and he kills him without a word. There's no kind of conversation or anything along those lines of motives. It just happens. And I feel like the reason why Jace is so determined to kill Victor is that he's not only convinced that there's some sort of underlying evil within Victor, but also because he can then free Echo and Heimerdinger that way. That's just my crackpot conspiracy theory, and just thought of why he's so determined to kill his own best friend. It's a bit Cain and Abel at the end of the day. But I want to see where this goes in the next act and the kind of aftermath of this happening. Because we see all the cult members fall to the ground, and that's when we really, truly realise that they aren't human anymore. They're some sort of construct or aberration, right? And this is where we see where Warwick was being healed, or what we believed was being healed. He then turns into this absolute monstrosity, more than he was in episode 4. And like where he was regaining his own humanity, now he's completely gone off the deep end. Warwick then like fully transforms, and he once and for all finishes off Ambessa's bodyguard. And we kind of see the last bits of humanity drain from his soul. Like, he is fully a beast now. But then the camera sort of turns, and we see there's the entire Noxian regiment that Ambessa brought with her, and they're all just kind of standing there. And I know, what else can you do? They're probably awestruck by this scene of death and carnage and chaos. But it feels a little too theatrical for my likings, considering quite a lot of the time they go for a more of a realism approach. And this is when this massive fight between all of these different parties breaks out. Victor's sort of dying monologue is overlaid with the battle between Warwick and all of our kind of main cast of characters. And we see Vi get cut in the stomach, and kind of Jinx rushing towards Warwick to try and like calm him down, and Aisha witness to all of this, and I can assume they're like trying to figure out a way to stop this. My first thought was, I hope this impacts Vi. Like, I feel like the next episode will have another gap between it. It won't actually start off with the aftermath of what's gone on in this battle. I feel like it would have been too much because, right, so the thing is that Aisha has sacrificed themselves. They've overcharged the pistol, which has blown not only themselves up, probably a lot of the Noxian guards surrounding Warwick itself, and probably wounded a good few other people like Ambessa. And this is where Ambessa makes the kind of haste decision that she's going to take over Piltover for herself now, that she's lost everything valuable in this occupation or kind of rulership of Caitlyn, and now she's just like, I don't want anything to do with any of you, this is mine now. And I feel like, yeah, considering we're gonna have an act, next act will be very heavy on the action. I feel like it will have a lot of fighting in it. We need Vi to be in tip-top shape otherwise, and it will be dealing with the fallout of this incident. And I didn't actually expect this. I really don't know what to say. I'm kind of left without words here, because as much as I like Victor's speech, I'm really kind of torn up on whether I like this death scene or not. And once again, it feels like it's just all too much given all the other events of the episode. It feels very, very, like, it's giving me whiplash, like I said in the last episode. I like it. I feel like it serves as a good character death, and I can understand why they did it. They established Jinx and Aisha's relationship quite well, but I don't think the viewer has much attachment to Aisha. Because although we see all these really good scenes, we don't just get some downtime scenes where they're just all kind of like doing their own thing. And I know in the first episode you could say, oh, but they're doing the Pebbleweight Championships and whatnot. But at the same time, these are blatantly just trying to build the connection between Jinx and Aisha, right? And it's obvious. It is hand and fisted to you. It is, we're trying to build up this relationship between characters where it doesn't feel like it's naturally evolving. It doesn't feel like where we see sort of Jinx and Vi in the first act of season 1, or Vi and Caitlyn slowly build up that trust for each other. This feels very much like we put all these scenes here just to serve the death scene. So I feel like that's all my thoughts on the end of the episode. I don't really have many concerning this kind of last final battle between... really, I just want to see how it affects the next act. And I feel like the next act will not only make and break this sort of like episode 6, but also the rest of the season. Because where I didn't really have many sort of like issues with the first act of season 2, the second act has been this really like fast-paced, rickety roller coaster, which feels like it could break down at any time. And they're kind of like duct taping it together and kind of sticking some gum on there to keep it all functioning correctly. But yeah, if you did like this video, feel free to subscribe. It means a lot, or whatever. Dislike it if you really hated listening to this, but I don't think you'd make it that far anyway if you hated my videos. Yeah, so hopefully you have a nice day, and I'll see you all later. Bye!